Well, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese will meet Donald Trump next Monday. Can you guess what might be on the agenda? Well, if you believe Defence Industry Minister Pat Conroy, and bless you if you do, the pair will be having a free-ranging discussion about being a good global citizen.
Look, I'm not going to get ahead of that and predict what the two leaders will discuss. That's for them. But I'm expecting a very free-ranging discussion about all the challenges that face the world and the role of both Australia and the United States in being good global citizens and resolving them.
Two thoughts on that. First, I think most Australians would despair hearing our government excited to talk to Trump about how we can be a good global citizen rather than about, Australia's national interest. Second, Trump doesn't do free-ranging. He does what's in it for America. And if Albo wanders into that meeting armed with nothing but his good global citizen badge and a lecture on climate change, well, he's not going to get a chat. He's going to get a masterclass in reality. And just on that, I'm not sure I'll complain if that happens. Joining me now is former New South Wales Treasurer Michael Costa and Gemma Tonini from GT Communications. Welcome to you both. Michael, is Pat Conroy really that silly, or is he just pretending to be?
Yes, is the answer to that question. He is that silly. That's a ridiculous comment. Look, the agenda has only two objectives in my mind, and AUKUS and the tariffs. And if he can't come out of that with some clarity on that, he's not done the right thing by Australia. Let's be clear here. Currently, Trump is the alpha leader of the world, and you've got a bunch of beaters that were once very strong allies of the US, but over Palestine, they've shown their weakness. And the people I'm talking about, of course, are Albo, Starmer, Carney, and Macron. And really, he won't have any time to speak to them. The way he treated Starmer shows that. I think Starmer will probably get a better hearing the other day than Albo will get. So the object is to come out with some AUKUS support and some clarity on tariffs. I think that's about the best we can get.
Gemma, just on being a good global citizen, which Pat Conroy is very concerned about, can you explain to me what that even means?
I guess it depends on your political paradigm. I think for the Australian government, it's proven to me not actually taking a position that requires any cost or anything other than virtue signalling from the safety of Canberra on the other side of the world. I don't believe that this is going to be a good meeting for Mr Albanese. I don't believe... Look, put it this way, if the best indication of future behaviour is past behaviour, President Trump doesn't suffer fools, and as you rightly pointed out, he doesn't do sort of freewheeling, free-ranging. What's in it for America? And I think my mind goes back, James, to that media call that he did with Keir Starmer in the early days, where he just absolutely teed off on what a rubbish mayor Sadiq Khan was, and Keir Starmer interrupted him and said, "Oh, well, hang about, mate. He's a good friend of mine." And Trump said, "I don't care. He's still a rubbish mayor." I just don't think... I suspect there might be a bit of naivety about what Australia can expect and how Mr Albanese expects to be treated as, the leader of a country that was once one of America's most staunch allies and has been very limp-wristed in the last few years in relation to not only our national security, but the security of the Middle East. And it will be interesting to me, James, to see what, if anything, Mr Trump has to say about the Prime Minister and Foreign Minister's view that they had a role to play in securing the ceasefire deal in Gaza, which is, of course, the subject of fantasy at best.
Well, Gemma, since you raised that issue, let's have a listen to what our Defence Industry Minister had to say on Trump's peace deal in Gaza. Have a listen.
We obviously welcome the ceasefire and we applaud the efforts of President Trump and everyone else involved to secure it. Obviously, it's a very testing process, and we just urge all parties to exercise restraint and to abide by the terms of the ceasefire. I think that's the interest of every partner in the Middle East and, quite frankly, the whole world. And so we're just hoping and urging everyone to follow the process as agreed to, because I think it's in everyone's interest for that ceasefire to continue on the path to a permanent peace that includes a two-state solution that respects secure borders for both Palestine and Israel.
Michael Costa, these benign statements just go to reinforce how irrelevant the Albanese government is to what's happening in the Middle East, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. And that was a dopey response. Of course, there is a peace process, but that peace process has nothing to do with all of those clowns that went and supported a recognition of Palestine in the UN. The fact of the matter is that this is going to be a difficult process, and I think the minister doesn't understand that, obviously, from his comments. We have to disarm Hamas. That's part of the arrangements that will ensure the success of this. And Trump was very clear today, if they don't lay down their weapons, he's going to break out hell, as he said. And I think that's really the position we're in. The mealy-mouthed comments like that you just heard just shows that there's no moral clarity with this government on this issue.
Well, that's a great point, because I noticed, Michael, you used the word Hamas, but Pat Conroy, he talked about, urging all parties to do the right thing, by which, Gemma, I guess he's talking about a liberal democracy, Israel, and the terrorist group Hamas, all parties. Have our government ministers learned nothing, that they still can't help but speak of these two different entities as moral equivalents?
So one of the things I learned early on, and as you know, James, I went to the war zone in December last year. I was in the Gaza envelope. I went to 2 of the kibbutzim. I went to the Nova site. I have met with hostages who have been returned from Gaza and survivors of that festival. Our federal government did not. The former Attorney General did late in the piece after policy was formed, but the critical part of this is, I wonder, I formed a view that, Penny Wong, when she went to the Middle East not long after the war started, didn't go to Israel's murdering sites, the killing fields. Imagine having the policy position that this government still does, having been down there, having actually met face to face on the ground and seen with their own eyes what went on down there. This government is so disconnected from reality. They do not have a concept of the fact that this liberal democracy, this imperfect but liberal, free democracy in the Middle East, is surrounded by people whose identity is linked to the destruction of the Jewish race. It's not conceptually difficult to understand unless you are captured by ideology. I've sat in a bomb shelter 2 nights in a row while missiles are rained down from the Houthi, who are thousands of kilometres away. They don't even share a border with Israel, Iranian proxies. I say all of this to say that the federal government's position on the Middle East has been disconnected from reality. They've been able to use words like, diplomacy and de-escalation. They mean nothing in reality. And if they honestly think diplomacy and de-escalation had anything to do with those 20 people coming home safe, they're insane, because we know that Hamas has already broken the terms of the ceasefire because it hasn't handed back the bodies of the deceased. It started rounding up Palestinians and executing them in the streets. I don't know what it's going to take for this government to come face to face with its own behaviour.
Just really quickly before we go to a break, speaking of people who learn nothing, the Greens in New South Wales have been accused of using the October 7 Hamas attack to raise money for the party. They sent an email to supporters coinciding with the 2nd anniversary of Hamas attack, asking people to donate to help end the occupation and stand with Palestine. The email directs readers to a website where they can donate, but the money goes into Greens party coffers. Michael, just in a few moments, does it surprise you to see the Greens appearing to manipulate people's distress over Gaza for their own fundraising?
The Greens are morally bankrupt. They've been like that for a long time. They see a bloody terrorist event on October 7 as an opportunity to spread their poisonous ideology. We used to joke about the Greens being, green on the outside and red on the middle. That green is more and more Hamas green rather than the environmental.
It would seem that way. Michael Costa, Gemma Tonini, thanks so much for joining me.